better. Literally a warm welcome back to the channel, and occasionally somewhat noisy. As most of you know, the 7 has no AC, which makes it incredibly toasty in here. Also, it has the most uncomfortable seat out of all my vehicles. That, coupled with the fact that I will not be able to hear for the next half hour, makes things just wonderful. However, the 7 wasn't designed for that, and all of you know that. The 7 was designed to go fast, so it fits into today's video perfectly because there's a component on the 7 that is my absolute favorite. And that also happens to be the same thing that I'm changing on the SV. After we go through that, we can take a look at how both of them look on the road. For those of you that don't know, this is my RX-7, affectionately known to me as the 7. And a long time ago, just like a long time ago with myself, this car was fairly well known as a race car. But now, it is just known as my car. But there's something about this car that is somewhat special beyond the fact of what you see here with the 13B that made over 600 horsepower and then ran in the 8s. It's the hood. The hood was a gift to me from Mazda. It's my favorite hood. A lot of people don't even know that. It is my favorite carbon fiber hood, but not for the reason you would think. The hood itself is actually heavy, really heavy. I don't know what it's made out of, but if it's a wet lay carbon hood, it is possibly the heaviest wet lay carbon hood I've ever seen. My suspicion is it's not. It could potentially be glass with some sort of overlay. I don't know. But you can look under here and the bracing and everything quality is good. That was uncommon when carbon fiber just started. Take a look here. Now, the carbon weave is really nice, you can see that. But also, if you look close, you can see the X-brace underneath, which would be unacceptable in today's day and age, but at the time, that was just how things were done. Now, this hood is my favorite, not for what you would think. I loved it because it was carbon, but it was heavy, which kind of goes against the principle, right? But what I really like about it is the paint job, and not the Xtreme paint that's on it. It's the fade in, and I have no idea why this is the only car I did it on, but it could possibly be because it's difficult. And those of you that think it's easy, well then you're just much better than me. Do I know how to paint? Yes, I was taught by my good friend Brian Kurokawa that painted all my race cars, and I'm terrible at it. I've messed up so much farm equipment that I've probably given Brian a good chunk of his gray hairs, having to redo my pitiful work. But do I dare do any of these? No, I'm trusted with something like, I don't know, sanding a spot that no one can see, and then when I burn through and he has to fix it, him calling me all sorts of names and 4-letter words. But in any case, that is my favorite. I don't know why I didn't do it on any other car, but this is the only car that has a fade in. And Brian did that by hand. If I did that, it would be all over the place. But take a quick look at how straight the line is for freehand. And why I didn't do this on any other car, I have no idea, because actually I like it a lot, but it could be because it's insanely difficult, and those of you that think it's easy, well then more power to you. But to get that fade in straight like that by freehand, it's not going to happen if it's me. And by the way that there's no overspray on the carbon, the way it's all masked off and you don't see a masking line, not good times, lots of work, and God forbid that there is a problem, because then somebody, maybe being me that I was a peon, I would have to sand all that down, sand all the paint off, but I will tell you that he got that in one shot. That's why he was the best. I don't know, will I do that to the SV? Probably not. I don't know who I would entrust to do it, and I wouldn't want to screw up that hood. I don't even remember whose idea that was, but Brian was much more creative than myself, so my suspicion is that it was his idea and he pulled it off, and I'm grateful for that. And that is of course why, even though this hood is heavy, and there are other hoods out there, I could have somebody remake it in Prepreg, I just won't do it because of just the way it is and all the memories that come with it. I'll go through how I changed the hood on the SV, and then take both of these cars out so you can get an idea of what they look like on the road and on the move. I decided to go with the EUROteck Racing carbon fiber hood because it was the nicest looking with the vent configuration and was of course made in Prepreg carbon fiber. It is always a good time with aftermarket. Even though I love that new hood, it occurred to me that this bracket is missing. So most likely, so I don't disturb the factory hood, I will need to make a custom bracket. But the first thing is, for now, I want to remove the gas strut, so at least we can get this off. Even with protection of the fender, it's a good idea to put your hand there so you don't accidentally cause something very expensive to happen. Well, as you can see, the computer says that it is 20 pounds. If I remember correctly, the new Prepreg carbon fiber hood only weighed 12 pounds, so it's a savings of 8 pounds. Now 8 pounds isn't tremendous, but in this world that's quite a bit. But it doesn't surprise me I get a gain. I'm surprised that much of a gain from Prepreg carbon fiber. That of course gives you a clue as to why it costs so much. But really what it's all about is the look. The savings is just an added bonus, at least for me. Trying to even the hood out. Now, no matter what, any aftermarket hood, even mostly OE, a lot of times these corners are all rounded and everything because you're not going to get it dead on. So what we're trying to do is split all the difference. And my trick of marking all the holes, well, obviously that's not going to work because they're not indexed the same on this aftermarket hood versus the factory hood. But the key is just equaling everything out. Give some here, take some there. So I'm trying to balance out what the gap is. So when you put the hood on, you want everything to be snug but loose enough where you can move it if you have to move it to get it to fit. So we're getting a little bit closer here. Like I said, nothing ever really works out the way I planned. Unfortunately, the studs for the striker are too long and they're hitting the latch when I come down, so I'm going to cut them back. Even when I transferred the striker, I noticed they were long, but I will report this to Neil, so I'm assuming when you go to order your hood, you won't have this problem. So what I did was I cut down the studs for the striker, and we'll give it another try. Hopefully it'll make it. A couple things I noticed when I was working on the hood I want to point out real quick. There's rubber bumpers on the factory hood that are used to adjust the load of the hood against the car, but they don't fit in this hood, so I didn't put them on. That's really common. I run into that all the time with aftermarket hoods. So I'll tell you what I do. I go to the hardware store and I look for little feet that are used for furniture or pads, and I use those. I stack them, and those work great. And they're adhesive, and then you can stick them onto the hood. All right, what I did was I shortened all the studs to the height of the factory hood. So hopefully we'll be okay, but we need to give it another shot. Now obviously that went a little bit more difficult than usual, but everything seemed to work out fine. Okay, I did the best I could, kind of lining everything up, but remember, everything's still loose. I can see that the latch is out of alignment, but you should always do that last, because as I tighten down, I'm sure things are gonna move, but we just hope that as it comes down, everything still stays in spec. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. Okay, we're getting pretty close here, but I cannot seem to close that side up as much as I want. The striker's off just a little bit, so I'm going to adjust the striker to hopefully get it to shift over just a bit. I've already done both hinges and I just can't get any more. Now once you feel that you're as close as you can be, I'm going to go ahead and push it down and lock it. A few things to remember. One is, on any other car that has the windows that opens as a courtesy, make sure that your battery's connected. If you pop the doors, unlatch the hood again. Let's give it a push and see what happens. Okay, that's really close. It's almost about as good as I can get. A few things I'll point out. Remember those bumpers I was talking about? This is why. If you look real close at the hood, you can see this side's up and this side's down. So if we lift this side, that'll push that down with those bumpers I was talking about. The other thing is that right here, when you check the body line, it's just about right on. It's a little low here, but it's high there. So it's about as good as it can get. The line isn't perfect, but of course, this is a custom part, so it's not gonna be perfect. If she dips right there, the key is you want to go ahead and put some hardware underneath there to give you distance between the striker. And that's the whole reason why you want to keep as much stud length as you can without interfering with the latch. Well, I made one final adjustment with the striker, and I did that by moving it over. That pushes the hood over. Now, there is a little more clearance here than I want to see, but I was able to get the center line back where I needed it. It just isn't a perfect world in working with all this stuff. And you can see right here, if you look close, the gaps are all even. So I had to give up there to make everything else up here fit. But other than that, I feel like it's looking really good, except of course you can see my grubby hands put all those nasty fingerprints all over my really nice hood. But luckily, Drew will make it look like magic. Well, now that Drew has worked her magic, you can really see how nice this hood really is. Take a look at this. You can get a real good look at how close the fit is. Everything lines up. On the video with the fluorescent lights, it just doesn't do it justice. This part is darn near perfect, and you can see right there how nice the weave actually looks. You could really see the amazing craftsmanship that was done to this entire hood. Even look at the underside, the weave is still picture perfect. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I used to race. And when I started, carbon fiber was just getting very popular. Now the amazing thing is, the trend at that time was glossy. Everyone wanted a glossy finish. But by the time my career ended, everyone wanted matte, which kind of signified the Prepreg look. They kind of went hand in hand. And what everyone figured out was that was the best possible part you could get as far as for weight. Cost, that was a whole nother issue. A good reason why the only Prepreg carbon part that I had for a long time was the hood on my NSX. Well, when I ordered the SV, I wanted all the parts done in matte. The issue became I wanted to clear bra the whole car. Well, when you clear bra, you actually have to match the finish with the clear bra. Meaning, to keep my parts looking matte, I had to use a matte type clear bra, as you could see here with my ducks. Well, you may ask yourself, why does Adam bring this up? Well, the reason's quite simple, because I agonized over ordering this hood, whether or not I should order it in matte, which would match everything, or go gloss. But I had to defer to my bud Neil, who is actually the expert in carbon fiber. He's the one who recommended that I went with gloss. He said that it just looks amazing, and it of course would still be Prepreg, and I wouldn't regret it. Well, he was definitely right. I really love the gloss finish, which presents a whole nother problem. The work is so good that I don't want to cover it with paint. And I don't know if any of you come up against the same thing, but I had to think about doing something creative. And of course, what came to mind was the matte finish, and he had brought that to my attention of possibly doing the whole hood. Now, because the hood is so nice, at least at current time, I will leave it gloss for a little while. But when I decide to change it up, I'll pass something on to you that you might consider if you want kind of a different look, but don't want to be permanent in a commitment, much like me with relationships. You could do something else. And that is Expel, Suntech, they all sell that matte finish. You could actually either use the gloss as accents or use the matte as accents. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you look at the hood right here as a whole, you could literally do everything in matte but leave the vent openings in gloss, or you could do just the vent openings in matte and leave the hood in gloss. Now, that may sound unusual, but I believe the effect would be quite amazing. Of course, I haven't done it. It's all up here, but I pass it on to you guys because think about this. I don't know about you, but what if I paint it and then I decide that I don't like that? I'm pretty much screwed. Clear bra? Just pull it off. But it'll give you kind of that effect, depth, that you just won't get if you leave it alone. But of course, for me, the workmanship is just too nice. I can't cover it yet, but who knows down the road. And on that note, let's take a look at the differences of how the two hoods from the 7 and the SV look in the real world. One is that there's rubber bumpers on the factory hood. There's rubber bumpers on the factory hood that, hello?